Former President Donald Trump lost the 2020 election by a decisive margin. But a lot of people are still convinced he's going to be back in the Oval Office long before this term is up.
Mike Lindell says he thinks President Trump will be back in office by the end of August.
Do you believe that?
I don't, we learned not to put any dates on anything, but the Arizona audit is proving that it was stolen, and that's coming to Georgia. I don't know what process they're in right now, but it's going to all the other states, and they're seeing it everywhere.
I don't trust anybody who doesn't want an audit. I don't trust you. You don't want to. Let's shut these audits down. Why? Why you want to shut an audit down? I've never seen
money.
So what? Look, there's 50% of this country doesn't believe this election was legitimate.
Do you believe it was legit?
In Georgia, I have videotape evidence of the woman running the count in the middle of the night. I also know that it was in the middle of the night that it flipped, right? This state was won by Trump, and then what happened in the middle of the night? Whoop, it flipped.
The state didn't flip in the middle of the night. What happened was the votes were counted, and the results showed Georgia turned blue for the first time in 28 years. In response, Team Trump filed several lawsuits claiming voter fraud in Georgia. Then, to prove that nothing shady was happening, the state counted the votes over and over again.
There was a hand recount that happened in November and then another one that happened after that. Do you think those were fairly done?
No, I do not.
Distrustful of all the official recounts, Republicans across the country are demanding that they be allowed to conduct their own, quote, audits of the results. A real audit is a way of confirming that a count is accurate by randomly sampling paper ballots, tallying them up, and comparing it to the machine count. Instead, in Arizona, a company that does not have expertise in elections is searching for fraud by, among other things, using blue lights to look for bamboo in paper on the theory that ballots were imported from Asia. Election experts say this is not serious, but it's now the blueprint in other states.
What I saw in Arizona is the model for Pennsylvania, any battleground state.
In Georgia, 9 people are suing to inspect the mail-in ballots in Fulton County. It's a majority black area that delivered a decisive win for President Biden.
Okay, so here is the original complaint that we filed back on December the 23rd.
Garland Favorito is a retired IT professional and says he's not a Republican and didn't vote for Trump. What were your concerns with the November 2020 election?
4 senior poll managers found what they believed to be counterfeit ballots that they were handling as auditors during that audit.
So this audit is going to look at just the absentee ballots. Why is the focus on the absentee ballots?
It appears obvious from everything else that that's where the potential fraud is. And technically it's not an audit, it's really an inspection, but it's an inspection to look for the counterfeit ballots.
Do you have any evidence that the ballots are counterfeit?
From what we've seen from the images that we were given last month, they corroborate at least some of the affidavits.
Georgia's Secretary of State has previously refuted claims of counterfeit absentee ballots and other allegations in a letter he sent to senators in January. But he does say an audit in Fulton County could help promote transparency. Since January of last year, a group called the Center for Election Innovation and Research has partnered with the Georgia Secretary of State's office to consult on election security. But the group's founder, David Becker, says some Americans may not have faith in the voting process after 2020.
Objectively, we had a more secure election. We had more paper ballots in states like Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania that didn't have paper ballots statewide in 2016. We had audits of those paper ballots. We had recounts of those paper ballots. In Georgia, they counted every presidential ballot 3 times, 3 different ways. And yet we're seeing, for the first time in American history, the losing candidate delegitimize the entire election.
How would you describe this period that we're entering?
So we're in the most fragile state that American democracy has been in, certainly since the 1960s, and probably dating back to before the 20th century. We now have people in this country, in a very closely divided country, who cannot conceive of the idea that in a closely divided country, their candidate and their party might lose. And that's very, very damaging for election confidence, for legitimacy of governance and elections going forward.
Republicans are using these lies to justify taking dramatic action. State lawmakers are rushing through bills that restrict when and how people can vote. People are calling for sham audits to get a chance to dig through already counted ballots. And even that isn't enough to get the most die-hard Trump supporters to trust the process.
How does what happened in November, the presidential election in November, affect how you think about future elections? Do you trust the election process?
Not at this point.
No. I
We
do
will
not
keep
trust.
fighting.
I didn't even trust when we had the senator election.
If we don't get rid of the Dominion voting machines or any kind of machine that's supposedly not connected to a computer, which they claimed Dominion didn't, but it did, if we don't get rid of those, we won't ever have a fair election again.